If you want to track your team's time, manage budgets, and catch project overrun before it becomes expensive, then you are going to love the new Timesheets and Budgets add-on in Asana. And let me tell you, this is a meaningful update. We have loads of clients who have been using third-party tools like Harvest or Toggle to track their team's time and manage budgets. Now, you can do all of this natively inside Asana without any extra software needed. I've organized this tutorial into 5 easy parts. First, I'll walk you through the timesheet settings and one-time setup. Second, I'll show you how to create a project budget based on hours or cost. 3, I'll show you how your team can log their time on tasks to update their timesheets. 4, I'll walk you through how managers can review and approve those timesheets. And finally, 5, I'll wrap up by explaining why all of this matters, some of the reporting capabilities and limitations to be aware of. And if you'd prefer to work with an Asana expert to set up and start using this feature, then click the link in the description to book an introductory call with one of the Asana consultants on our team. Otherwise, let's get into it. Now, the first step is to purchase the Timesheets and Budgets add-on. You can find all the details on Asana's pricing page and in the billing section of your admin console. And to clarify, Timesheets and Budgets is an add-on. You purchase timesheet and budget licenses per person on your team for however many people need to use that add-on. And this goes on top of your regular subscription. So if you have 10 users on the advanced plan and you want all 10 people to use timesheets and budgets, you'll need 10 additional timesheet and budget add-on licenses. And if you want the best price on your Asana subscription or these licenses, click the link in the description to request a quote from Mineco. You can buy through us. We'll give you a discount off the retail price. Once that's done, we can start by reviewing the timesheet settings. And this is just a one-time setup that we do from the admin console. So you do need to be an admin to play with these settings. If you go to settings on the left-hand side and scroll down to timesheets and resourcing, we just need to review and set everything here once. You can, of course, come back and change these settings later. Firstly, at the top, you can enable or disable this feature entirely. We can choose whether we want to allow people to track billable versus non-billable time. So you might choose to just have non-billable if you're just tracking time for productivity purposes, or you would enable billable if you want to track the cost at a billable hourly rate on your projects. You may then choose to then use that to bill clients later on. You can also choose the default setting, so billable or non-billable when time is tracked, and the currency and rate that billable time is tracked in. We also have the ability here to choose, do we want to allow the team to just simply submit their timesheets, or do we want to add an approval step where managers actually then have to review and approve the timesheets to make sure it's all correct? So we have ours set to submit and approve. You have an option to enable timesheet categories. This is suitable if you want to track time and analyze how time is being spent on different types of work. You could have here categories for things like development or design work, and that's just an extra layer of reporting that I would get, but I'm going to keep that turned off. You can choose to just log time on the project itself, but I've kept that turned off because I want my team to track time on specific tasks. I've also enabled the option to send automated reminders on a Monday at 9 a.m. so my team get reminded in their inbox to submit their timesheet. You can choose to enable future time logging, but I've kept that turned off. And finally, we've set down here that our timesheets get locked after 8 weeks. So after that period of time, nobody can go back and change timesheets later on. Hit Save Changes, and then the final thing we need to do to complete our setup is navigate to the Users tab. This is where you can assign the timesheet licenses to members of your team, and if you manage the person's profile down the bottom, this is where you will also need to choose who is the timesheet reviewer. So in this case, Charmaine, who's our general manager, she reviews all the timesheets each week. She will be the one to review Andrew, in this case's timesheet. So make sure you go through each person on your team that requires a timesheets license and set who their manager or reviewer should be. And that's it. That is the one-time setup complete. Okay, with that done, step 2 is we're going to now set up a project budget. To do that, navigate to a project that you are working on and click on the Overview tab. Scroll down a little bit and you will find the Project Budget section, and you can just click Set Up Budget. Now, there are 2 ways you can set up a budget. First, You can budget based on cost. This is where you would input somebody's name and the billable rate for those people. So I can say, Lindsay, we're billing at 75 and Warwick at 100. And so as each of those team members track time on their tasks, the cost is calculated as the time times their rate. The other option is to track based on hours. So let's say we have a total of 20 hours that we are working on this project. There's no costs involved necessarily or directly in any way. And so as people track their time, that is deducted from the total budgeted hours. Now at Mineco, we budget projects using hours, but I'm curious, what do you do? Do you use cost or hours? I'm on team hours. I think that's best, but let me know what you're doing. Leave me a comment down below. Once you've chosen how your budget is managed, you then have the option to turn on estimated time. And I recommend turning this on because by estimating time on tasks, you can actually see, well, based on our estimates, how does that compare to our budget? It's also going to unlock other useful, powerful features in Asana like the capacity and resource planning. So I would suggest turning this on, and you can see here, it's going to ask me to add the estimated time custom field to my project. And so you can see by clicking that option, it's now added this estimated time field to my project. I can click on any of these tasks and fill in the estimated time here. So maybe I'm going to spend an hour reviewing this document. If I go back to my budget settings, if you don't want to estimate time on tasks, if you want to be a bit sort of higher level, you can estimate time using a capacity plan. This is where you say, right, Paul, 50% of your capacity goes to this project, or 20 hours a week goes to this project. But I prefer, and with most of the clients we work with, we generally do estimated time at the task level. You also have options here to choose whether billable or just non-billable or all time counts towards the estimated time of a project. So right, we're only going to count billable time. Anything non-billable that's just sort of admin, we don't count that as time towards the project. So we're going to leave that as is. We have the same choice down here in regards to our actual time. And finally, I would suggest turning on this option to set up a threshold notification. So if I get to 80% of the total budget, I'm then going to get a notification in my inbox that we are getting close to reaching our total project budget. And that's it. We've now set up the budget for this specific project. Now, before I ask my team to start tracking their actual time, I'm going to finish building out this project, which I've done here by assigning tasks to people on the team. And I've also put in the estimated time on each of these tasks. So now if I go back to my overview, you can see how the project budget is looking. So of the 20 hours total budget, we have 10.5 hours of estimated time. We have 9.5 hours remaining, which is good because as this project develops, new tasks are going to be created. And so it's nice to have a buffer there. The other thing I need to do is we need to add a column for actual time. You can do this by clicking the plus add field button here, or under the customize menu, if you go to fields, we're going to add a field from the field library and search for actual time. This is one of Asana's pre-built system fields. So now you can click on this field here, or you can access the time tracking actual time from within the task panel. With that final bit of setup done, the last thing I'll just show you briefly on this dashboard here is I've created a couple of widgets. The first here is showing me the estimated time we have scheduled on those tasks. So this widget is just set up as a time entry chart. I've got staff on the x-axis, estimated time on the y-axis, and so we can see how much billable or non-billable work we have planned. And I simply duplicate this chart to create this one for our actual time, and I've just changed the y-axis to actual. It's not currently showing anything right now, but once we start tracking time, that chart will update. Okay, step 3, we're now ready to start logging our actual time on our tasks, and this is the part of the video that you're going to want to share with your team so they follow the correct steps. Now, to track my time on tasks, I can do that in one of two places. The first, and this is my suggestion, is to just do it in the project on the task itself. If I click up a task, I can see what am I doing, when it's due, what is the work, I've got the conversation in the comments down here, I've got attachments, everything I need to start doing my task. I then just simply start the timer right here. This is going to run in the background, I can do my work, I can go into my meeting if that's what I'm doing, and then when I'm finished, I stop the timer. Now, nothing tracked here because you have to work for a minimum of 30 seconds. But that's the first option. However, I guarantee people will forget to start and stop the timer. So you can also retroactively go in and add your actual time. So I'm going to say, right, I've just spent 30 minutes on this task. I can track it as billable or non-billable. I can write in a little note. And if I had the categories setting turned on, I'd even be able to choose what category of work I'm doing. So there we go. I've now added in some time for this work. If I click on that 30 minutes of actual time, I can see each timer that I've started or each portion of time that I've tracked, and I could retroactively go in here and add time if I need to. So maybe I actually spent 15 minutes working on this yesterday, but I forgot to log it. I'm going to add that as well. So you can see each portion of time that I've tracked and my total. Now, if I go to my overview, you can see the actual time has updated here. If I go to my dashboard, I can see the 45 minutes of time has updated on that chart. So as a project manager, I've got a real-time view of how we are tracking towards our project budget. So that's the first place we can track the time. The second way that I can track time is on the timesheet itself. So if you navigate to timesheets in the sidebar, this is my individual timesheet. Now, at the time of recording, even as an admin, I can only view my timesheet. I can't view the timesheets of other people on my team unless I am set as the reviewer of that person's timesheet. So from here, I can see the time that's already been tracked. So there's the 15 minutes yesterday and the 30 minutes today. I could come in here and click the plus button and add tasks or projects that I want to track. I actually recommend, though, going to the timesheet settings and enabling this option to auto add tasks assigned to me that are due this week. When I turn that on, this shows me any task assigned to me that's due this week almost as like a prompt, like this is what you're working on, and I can see what I have or haven't tracked time on yet. This is also a nice summary at the end of the week. Before I submit my timesheet, I can look at what have I done for the week? Have I captured everything? This is my one view to see all the time that I've tracked across all the projects and tasks that I'm working on. And I have options in here to change the weekly timesheet that I'm looking at. I can go back and make changes to previous weeks if I need to, as long as it's within that time period where I can actually edit timesheets. If I go back to my current week, you can see I currently cannot log time on future dated tasks. That's because of the setting that I chose earlier. I'm not allowing future time logging, but you could enable that for your business if you want. I can choose to show weekends if I need to, but I think it's best to keep that turned off, and I'm going to save that view so it always defaults to the way this is set up. Now, once I've logged all my time for the week, I'm happy and I'm satisfied. I can then submit my timesheet to my reviewer. I'm going to say, look, only logged 45 minutes this week as I was ill. So I can put that little note in there and click submit. That goes to whoever my reviewer is. Okay, step 4. These are the steps that a manager or reviewer would take to review and approve someone's timesheet. First, make sure you are checking your inbox up here. You'll see there's a little red dot when there's a new notification for me to look at. And you can see I get a notification like this when somebody on my team has submitted their timesheet for me to review. I can click that button and it takes me to that employee's timesheet. I'm actually going to switch to Charmaine's Asana account. Charmaine is our general manager. She's the one that reviews the timesheets for our team. And she can actually view all the timesheets she needs to review under this time review tab here, which is right next to her individual timesheet. Now, on this screen, she can see everyone that she is reviewing. You can click and expand to see the projects and time tracked for each person. There's also some options up here. I've chosen to sort the person descending, so people whose timesheets are ready to review go to the top. You can also filter and find specific people or filter by status. So let's just look at everyone that we need to review. And so here you can see this is the timesheet that I, Paul, just submitted to Charmaine, and you can see the 45 minutes that I've tracked in there. If I hover my mouse next to someone's name, I can click to view the timesheet. And if I am an admin on the project, me, the reviewer, I can then come in here and I can edit time entries if I need to. So I can adjust the time, or I can make it billable or non-billable. I can change the category if I need to, but only if I am a project admin. As the reviewer, what I'm doing is making sure, has sufficient time been tracked? Is it logged correctly as billable or non-billable? Are we using the right category? It's a nice extra step to make sure, especially if we are going to be billing a client, that we've logged everything correctly. Once I'm happy, I can come to the to review section and I can see updates on this approval. If I'm wondering why did Paul only submit 45 minutes for the week, I can see his note in here. Okay, he was ill, let's give him a break. I'm happy, so we can say, yep, sounds good, hope you feel better. We'll need to catch up next week, and I can approve the timesheet. And if I go back to my account now, me, Paul, I can see in my inbox, Charmaine has now approved my timesheet and I can see her response to me there. Now, let me conclude by showing you a couple of areas of Asana where the actual hours and budgets are displayed. This is going to be particularly useful for agencies, consulting companies, or any professional service firm where keeping track of project budgets and hours is really important. Now, if you're managing multiple projects at once, then you really should be using the portfolios feature. If you haven't used this feature before, check out our related video, which we will link up here to learn how to get started. Here's one that I've created called Demo Portfolio. Think of a portfolio as a dashboard that shows you the status of multiple projects in one view. I just have our demo project in here, and it gives me a high-level view of the status of the project, the task percentage completion, and if I click this plus field button, I can add our budgeted time fields in here. So this is just going to bring in the estimated time that I've put on our tasks, the actual time that I've tracked, and our budgeted time for the project. So imagine I have 10 projects in here. This is a really useful high-level view for me as a manager or business owner to see how are we going on our budgets across the 10, 20, 30 or more projects that we're working on at once. Now, at the time of recording, there are a couple of limitations related to this feature, which I actually think Asana will solve at some point. The first is that we can't generate invoices using this feature. We've logged all the actual time and what's billable and non-billable, which is great. I currently can't generate an invoice from this data. What I can do though is export the time entries to a CSV. So if I export that data out, I could easily import this into my invoicing software to invoice for that billable time. But I would love to see Asana build an actual invoicing capability native here. The other limitation we have at the time of recording is that these budgets are set up as the total budget for the project, where we actually have a lot of clients on retainer. We have a project per client, and we want to set the total hours for that client per month. We want the budget to reset every month, so 20 hours a month. But at the time of recording, we can't do that. We would have to set up one project per month, which we don't really want to do. But it's still early days for this feature or this add-on, and I am confident Asana will improve functionality over time. I'm super excited to be putting out this video. We've been waiting for this feature. Customers have been asking for this feature for a while. Asana has listened and has delivered. Thank you, Asana. If you have any questions about using timesheets or budgets, drop me a comment below. I answer every single one. If you found this video useful, give it a like. It's the best way to support this channel, and thank you very much for watching.